Let's talk about type 1 diabetes. You've probably heard things, maybe seen it in movies, but today we're going to cut through all that noise. We're going to get to the real story, separating the myths from the actual science. Because chances are, a lot of what you think you know might be off. This isn't a story about what someone did or didn't eat. Nope. This is a fascinating story about the body's own immune system, and it's one that really needs to be told with a ton of compassion and, most importantly, with accuracy. Okay, let's just get this out of the way right now. This is the biggest myth, and it is 100% false. Type 1 diabetes has absolutely nothing to do with how much sugar someone ate, their diet, or their lifestyle. It's just not preventable, period. And here's another thing that shatters that old, outdated stereotype of juvenile diabetes. You know, while it is common in kids, about half of all people with type 1 are diagnosed as adults. Think about that. It can show up at any point in life, from a tiny baby to someone in their senior years. So what is it then? Here's the single most important thing you need to know. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. This means the body's security system, the one that's supposed to fight off viruses and bacteria, gets confused. It makes a mistake and starts attacking the body's own healthy cells. This one fact is the key to understanding everything else. So what does that actually look like, this autoimmune mix-up? Let's zoom in and take a look at what's really happening inside the body on a cellular level. It's kind of like a case of mistaken identity. All right, here's the official definition. The immune system goes on a search and destroy mission for one very specific target, the beta cells in the pancreas. You can think of these beta cells as tiny, super important factories. In fact, they're the only factories in your entire body that produce insulin, which is the key that unlocks our cells so they can use sugar for energy.
And this attack, it doesn't happen all at once. It's actually a slow burn, happening in stages, often silently, over months or even years. The body starts creating these things called autoantibodies. They're like the fingerprints of the attack. And all this time, the beta cells are being destroyed long before anyone even feels sick. The symptoms we recognize only show up after most of those vital little factories are gone for good.
Now, this is why it's so important to know that type 1 and type 2 are completely different. I mean, they're like night and day. Type 1, as we've said, is an autoimmune attack that wipes out insulin production completely. Type 2, on the other hand, is about the body not being able to use the insulin it makes effectively. That's called insulin resistance. They are fundamentally different conditions. So, what happens when that tipping point is reached, when enough of those beta cells have been destroyed? Well, the symptoms can hit with shocking speed. We're talking about just a few days or weeks. These are the classic signs. Your body is basically trying to get rid of all this extra sugar in the blood, which means you're running to the bathroom constantly. That leads to serious dehydration and a thirst you just can't quench. And the crazy part? Even though you might be eating a ton, your cells are literally starving because the sugar can't get in without insulin. This is what causes that rapid, scary weight loss and a fatigue that feels like it's in your bones. Now, if this goes on undiagnosed, the body goes into full-on survival mode. It starts burning fat for fuel because it can't use sugar, but this process creates these acidic byproducts called ketones. As those ketones build up, the blood literally becomes toxic. This is an incredibly dangerous, life-threatening condition called diabetic ketoacidosis, or DK. I really, really need to stress this. DKA is a true medical emergency. For a lot of people, it's actually the first sign that leads to their type 1 diagnosis. If you see these symptoms, it's not a wait-and-see situation. It's a get-to-the-emergency room situation, immediately. Okay, that was the heavy stuff. Now, let's talk about the hopeful part of this story. Because while we don't have a cure just yet, the tools and the technology we have today to manage type 1 diabetes are absolutely incredible. They're empowering people to live completely full, healthy, amazing lives. So, since the body's insulin factories are shut down, that insulin has to be replaced from the outside. You know, it's not really a medication in the typical sense, it's a hormone replacement. It is, quite literally, life support. Without it, a person with type 1 simply can't survive. And there are two main ways to get that insulin into the body. The first is what's called multiple daily injections, or MDI. This usually involves using different insulin pens throughout the day. The other option is an insulin pump. It's this small, wearable device that delivers a tiny, steady stream of insulin 24/7, plus extra doses for meals. So what's this number all about? This is the new gold standard for diabetes management. It's called time and range. It's the percentage of the day that a person's glucose levels are in their target zone, not too high, not too low. And spending at least 70% of your day in that sweet spot makes a huge difference, not just for long-term health, but for how you feel day to day. And the tool that makes hitting that time and range goal even possible, it's the continuous glucose monitor, or CGM. Honestly, this little wearable sensor has been a complete game changer. It checks your glucose every few minutes, sends the info to your phone, and shows you not just the number, but which way it's heading with trend arrows. It lets you be proactive instead of just reacting. And this is where it gets really exciting. We've got all this amazing data from CGMs, but what do we do with it? Well, the next frontier is using AI to analyze that data along with your sleep, your stress, your exercise, all of it. It can spot these hidden patterns, showing you exactly how a bad night's sleep affects your morning sugar or how that walk after dinner helped you out. It's like having a personal data detective. Because look, managing the numbers is just one piece of the puzzle. The whole point is to live your life and live it to the fullest. A type 1 diagnosis isn't the end of the book. It's just the start of a new chapter. And with the tools we have today, there are really no limits. Seriously, people with type 1 are out there competing as professional athletes, they're starting and running companies, they're creating amazing arts, and they're traveling the world. Does it take work? Yes, absolutely. But it doesn't have to get in the way of your dreams. But let's be real for a second. Managing a 24/7 condition is hard work, and it can be exhausting. Diabetes burnout is a very, very real thing. That's why your mental health and finding your people, connecting with the T1D community, is just as crucial as any pump or CGM. You are so not alone in this. And tools that use that AI we were just talking about can really help connect the dots between your CGM data and your actual life, turning that flood of numbers into real actionable steps. My Health Gheware is a platform designed to do exactly that, helping you transform your data into personalized insights. You can check it out at health.gheware.com. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. We are moving so fast towards a future with so-called artificial pancreas systems that do more and more of the work for you. As that tech gets better and better, what's the one part of managing diabetes? Maybe the carb counting, the overnight worries. What's the one thing you'd be most excited to just hand over to technology? And finally, just a quick but super important disclaimer. This has all been for educational purposes. Type 1 diabetes is a serious medical condition. Please always talk to your healthcare provider for diagnosis and treatment. And never, ever adjust your insulin doses without direct guidance from your medical team. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.